fractions. Fractions, basically we're going to start with negative and positive fractions. Okay, when you have a negative fraction, it could be written in 3 different ways. So it could be negative 1 over 2 equal, which is the same thing as writing negative 1 over 2, which is the same thing as writing 1 over negative 2. Okay, these mean exactly the same thing. Which one is the easiest one to deal with? The first one, where the negative is in the middle. Okay, the rest are going to be much more complicated when it comes to adding and subtracting different ones together. So it's always a good idea to move the negative out of the denominator when working with fractions and put it in the middle. Okay? Converting. So what we have 2 different kinds of fractions. We have mixed fractions, where you have a whole number and a fraction, and we have what we call an improper fraction. Okay? Improper fraction is the one that's easier to deal with. So, how can you convert a mixed fraction to an improper fraction? 16 over 24, right? So, what that means, you have 5 whole and 1/3 of the 6th one, right? So, to convert, what you have to do, you have to multiply the whole number by 2 and add your numerator. So that is the same thing as doing 5 times 3 plus 1 over 3. Now you guys won't have to write this, I'm just writing it to show it to you. Show you how I'm getting my answer. 5 times 3 is 15, 15 plus 1 is 16 over 3. Right? Because when you're adding fractions, or you're subtracting, you don't want to have mixed fractions. Okay? This is a mixed fraction, right? This is an improper. So you want to always change the mixed to an improper.
Higher number on top.
So, yes, most of the time it's going to be a higher number. Okay? So you know what to do? You guys all good with that? Okay. I don't know why I have that negative space. Let's forget about that one. Convert a mixed number to an improper fraction. Doesn't say anything else. What? It's already improper. Yeah. Are you guys okay with this? You want me to give you another one? Try? Here. Why don't you try 4 and 2/3. Because basically this is what this is. So this, you're adding the top, right? So you have to change that 4 into something over 3. So it'll be 12 over 3 and then plus 2, right? Which gives you 14. So this is the same as like doing adding fractions, basically, right? So you guys got 14 over 3? Okay. Now, what happens when you're adding and subtracting fractions? Okay. This sometimes doesn't like me, but you don't like each other. Okay, adding and subtracting fractions. The important part when you're adding and subtracting fraction is you must have a common denominator. If you don't have a common denominator, you can't do it. Okay? So the first thing, these are the steps to add and subtract fractions. So the first, you have to change all mixed fractions to improper fraction. Okay? So as you can see, if you have a mixed fraction here, I have to change it, right? If you don't have that case, you can skip it. Move negative sign into numerator and get rid of double signs. So that being said, so let's look at this one for example. You see how I have a negative in the denominator? I don't want it there. Because I have a negative and a negative. What does that make? Positive. Right? So we get rid of them. Okay? We have to clean up first. Then you're going to change all the fractions so they have the same denominator, or the lowest common denominator. Right? We'll talk about that in a second. Add and subtract only numerators using the same rule as adding and subtracting integers, and put answers in lowest term. So, let's look at this because it makes sense when we look at an example. Do I have any improper fractions in this one? No. So I can move on to the next step. Do I have any negative in the denominator? No. I can move on to the next step. Now, do I have common denominator? No. Right? It has to be the same number. What is the lowest common number between 8 and 4? What are the multiples of 2? It has to be a bigger number, not the same. 8. Right? If you look at the multiples of 8 is 8, 16, right? The multiples of 4 are 4 and 8, and then whatever, right? So 8 is the first common. So I'm gonna write this down for you. So the multiples of 8, right, are 8, 16, right, and so on. The multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, right? If you look right here, 8 is the lowest common between the two, so then 8 is your lowest common denominator. Yeah? Are we good with that? So you know what multiples are? You know what the multiple means? Right? So when you're multiplying 8 by 1, 8 by 2, 8 by 3, 8 by 4, these are the multiples. Okay, so it's your multiplication table. Okay, the multiples of 4 are also the multiplication table for 4. So 4, 8, 12, 16, and so on. Then you look at the common. Now, that being said, 8 is my lowest common denominator. So I can put 8 for both fractions. Now, do I need to do anything for this to make it 8? Or is it already 8? It's already 8, so I don't have to do anything for the top. So I write it as is. How about for this 4? How can I make it into 8? Multiply by 2, right? Anything I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. Right? So that's multiplied by 2. So that's going to be 3 plus 2 over 8, which is 5 over 8. Done. Okay? Now there's always the question that you have to ask yourself, can I simplify 5 over 8? Is there a way to make it smaller? No, because 5 is a prime number. I can't divide it by any. Prime number is a number that only can be divided by itself. By itself and 1. So that's the end of this. Now, next one. Yes.
When adding two fractions or subtracting two fractions, if you need to find the common denominator, but one of the fractions is negative and one is positive, do you need their negative? Do they all have to be positive or all have to be negative?
You don't. The negative is going to be in the middle. Remember that we're going to move the negative.
Yes, but I mean like the two separate fractions. Yeah. Do they both have to be positive, or can you have a positive and a negative?
You can have a positive and a negative. Okay. And then that means you subtract them, right? Yeah. Okay. So first step, I need to change all improper fraction to mixed fraction. So where's my improper fraction? 1, 2 over 7, right? So what would that be as a mixed fraction?
9 over 7.
9 over 7. Are we all good with that? 1 times 7 is 7, 7 plus 2 is 9. So I'm gonna rewrite this. I'm showing you the step. I could do two things at the same time, but I'm showing you the steps, and that's why I'm not doing it. And now you know why I hate this. Okay. Oh. Okay. Now, I need to change all the negatives from the bottom and put them in the middle, right? So you see that negative right here. I'm gonna write it like this. Okay. What happens here? Positive. That's 1 over 14. And then this one stays the same. Now, I have 3 fractions. The denominators are 2, 14, and 7. What would be the lowest common between all 3 of them? 14. It's always going to be either the biggest number or bigger than that. It will never be one of the smallest, right? Because the multiples of 14 starts at 14, right? The multiples of 14 are 14, 28, and so on, right? The multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and going on, right? The multiples of 7 are 7, 14. So you see that 14 is the lowest common between all 3 of them, okay? So that being said, my denominator is going to be 14. What do I have to do with the first fraction to make the denominator 14? What do I have to multiply this by? 7. Do the same to the top and the bottom. 7 times 3 is negative 21. What do I have to do for the second one? Nothing, so I have to leave it as plus 1, right? And how about for the third times 2, right? So that's going to be negative 8. Are you guys okay with this so far? So negative 21 plus 1 is negative 20. Take away 18, that's negative 38. Are you guys okay with this? This one? Yeah. So I want to make the denominator 14, right? So if I want to make the 2 14, what do I multiply it by? It's sort of H, what you multiply by 7, right? So if you multiply this by 7, then you have to multiply this by 7. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Okay? Now, am I done? No. What else do I have to do? Lowest term, right? This is not the most simple form. And how do I know this? Because I look at both numbers. Both numbers are even numbers, right? When you have 2 numbers that are even, you are for sure can divide by 2, right? That's at least that you can do. That's the least you can do. So if I divide by 2, what do I get?
19 over 7.
Negative 19 over 7, right? Negative 19 over 7, that is the lowest term, because 7 is a prime number, right? And 19 is also a prime number. You're going to hear me say that prime number. Prime number, again, is only a number that can be divided by itself and 1. Do you want me to give you another one for you guys to work on?